So good morning. I'd ask everyone to please take their seats. We're ready to start our ceremony. Supervisor George Holman, I'd like to just recognize some of the elected officials that are here with us this morning up on the dais, and then we'll get started. So I want to recognize from our town board, we have Councilman Mike Graziano. Well done, Mike. Thanks for picking that up. I appreciate it. Our Highway Superintendent, Bob Malone.
Yeah.
We have our Rockland County District Attorney, Thomas Walsh. New York State Assemblyman Ken Zabrowski. We have New York State Senator Elijah Reichlin-Melnick. We have from our Parks and Recreation Commission, the chairman of our Parks and Recreation Commission, Brian Tessiment. We also have from the Parks and Recreation Commission, the vice chairman, Scott Millick. We also have New York State Assemblyman Mike Lawler. Clarkstown judges Scott Ugel. Clarkstown Judge Howard Gerber. On the dais, we have Father Richard Baker from St. Francis of Assisi Church. We also have our keynote speaker, from who you'll hear from later on, who's a Iraqi war vet and a Spring Valley police officer, Andre Riobi. And doing our closing prayer will be Rabbi David Berkman from the New City Jewish Center. In addition, I want to thank Diana Martucci, who's going to be singing for us as well today. So I'd ask everyone to please stand for the presentation of the colors.
Ready? Book time. March.
Our invocation will be led by Father Richard Baker, and then followed by the national anthem by Diana Martucci.
In the quiet sanctuaries of our hearts, let us call upon the Divine One whose power over us is great and gentle, firm and forgiving, holy and healing. O God, who created us, who sustain us, who call us to live in peace, hear our prayer this day. Hear our prayer for all who have died, whose hopes and hearts are known to you alone. Hear our prayer for those who put the welfare of others ahead of their own, and give us hearts as generous as theirs. Hear our prayers for those who gave their lives in service of our country, and accept the gift of their sacrifice. Help us to shape and make a world where we lay down our arms of war and turn our swords into plowshares for harvests of justice and peace. Comfort those who grieve the loss of their loved ones, and let your healing be the hope in our hearts. Hear our prayer this day, and in your mercy answer us, in the name of all that is holy. May your abiding peace remain with us all, forever and ever. Amen.
that so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing as we move into the military honors. We'll start with the presentation of the wreaths, and we'll announce the veterans that are placing the wreaths over at our memorial garden as each one does so. That will be followed by a rifle salute and taps, and the colors will then be retired by the Clarkstown Police Department. Please remain standing for the entirety of this portion of the ceremony.
Governor, present. Up.
Presentation of the memorial wreaths in the Patriot Garden, starting with Dan Zavola, Anthony Riolo for World War II. The War on Terror by Roger DuPont. Korea by veteran Walter Keane. Desert Storm by veteran Bob Harkin. Vietnam by Ernie Kowalik. The Clarkstown Memorial by the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Eric Hammermeister.
Colors. Order. Up.
Honor Guard, please retire the colors.
Colors. Right. Face.
Thank you. Please be seated. Just want to make sure our guest speaker doesn't get hit in the face like I just did with the flag. So again, I want to introduce and thank for his willingness to speak Andre Ryobi. Andre Ryobi is a Spring Valley police officer. He's a U.S. Air Force veteran serving in Iraq, Germany, and other locations from 2009 up through recent years. He's a 10-year veteran of law enforcement, including the last 5 with the Spring Valley Police Department, and he will offer he'll be our keynote speaker and offer his veterans' reflections. Please welcome police officer and veteran Andre Ryobi.
Good morning. At this time, please join me as I acknowledge the lives and legacies of the victims of Buffalo, New York, and in Texas by taking a moment of silence. Thank you. My name is Andre Ryobi. I'm a Spring Valley police officer, a proud father, Nyack High School graduate. I now live in Valley Cottage, and I'm also an Air Force veteran serving in Iraq and in Kuwait. This morning, it's my connection, passion, and respect for military servicemen and women that I would like to address and illustrate through my own personal story. But before I begin, I would like all of you to travel along back with me in time to consider the origin of Memorial Day. When we think of Memorial Day, we often think start of summer, picnics, barbecues, family get-togethers, and parades. Originally, it was called Decoration Day. Memorial Day was established after the Civil War as a way to remember those who had died in that war. One of the earliest commemorations happened almost immediately after the war ended in 1865, when a group of formerly enslaved people in Charleston, South Carolina, dedicated the graves of the fallen soldiers. It continued in small towns across the country, with various springtime celebrations and remembrances. Over the years, it has evolved into a day to honor the dead from all the wars in which the United States had fought. And in 1971, the federal government made the last Monday in May, now called Memorial Day, a federal holiday. I'm glad that we're all here today because it's really important that we take a moment to recognize all the lives lost during military service. And I appreciate ceremonies like this one to honor those in Clarkstown and all over the United States. Now I'd like to tell you about my experience so that you can have a greater understanding as why it is Memorial Day is important to me. As I mentioned I served in the Air Force in Iraq and Kuwait. In 2010, I was deployed to Balad, Iraq. I was assigned to the ramp section in the aerial port on that base. In my job, we didn't leave the base. It was particularly at the base where we stayed there. I was fortunate enough to meet just about most of the folks that flew in. I'd be the face that met them at the back of the plane, escorted them in, sometimes showed folks around base. Whenever they got in, those that were being forward deployed always wanted to get off Balad, because the rumors had it, it was referred to as Mortar Reederville. For those that don't know what mortars are, those are rocket projectiles that came onto that base so fast, so numerous, and many times during the day and night. Because of that, they called it Mortar Reederville. At any given time, we were subjected to mortar attacks. The mortars would hit the bunks, hit the planes. The whole thing was common. It became second nature. You would hear the first boom, and then the alarm would sound. Immediately, you would hit the ground or you'd find hard shelter. Some would say, hey, hold your breath. Others would say, no, exhale. It could collapse your lungs. The shrapnel, the metal, it can go through anything. The new soldiers that would often come on base always asked about these things and why we did it and how we stayed there. And the rumor was it was better and safer off base than it was on. I was the ramp point of contact for mortuary affairs in the ramp section where I worked. The bread truck would often pull up. I'd approach the planes, people would get out. And I'd line guys in the back of the planes, and we'd help the caskets out. That was my task. I can't tell you how many ceremonies where I stood behind those hot planes. We'd load the caskets, we'd render a 3-second salute, and we'd send them back home here to the US. A lot of times to my base back in Andrews. As disturbing as it would sound, that too became second nature. You'd hear guys get hit with what we called an IED, an improvised explosive device, just another fancy name for a bomb or roadside bomb. We'd hear it all the time. Sometimes we'd hear it from home before we knew it happened where we were. It became a waiting game. Sometimes we'd just wait. We'd wait and see when his mortuary fair is gonna call, because I heard it on the news, or a friend told me, or an announcement was made. So my section knew we're waiting for the phone call, so we could perform the ceremony and send them home. One particular incident hit hard for me. There were a group of guys that had flown in weeks earlier into country, as they often do. They were a really tight-knit group of guys. I can tell from the time I was exiting them off the plane. The conversations were short. They had asked something like, where can we get real food from? I'd say, all right, guys, I'll see you when you get back. Bring me some Gatorade, a cigar, maybe some chewing tobacco. Anybody have alcohol if we're lucky? That was a big no-no. But that was just regular desert conversation. These were the things that we talked about. Those guys left and went out and did their jobs, as did I. I went right back to my duties. Thought nothing of it at the time. Then one day I heard about an IED, or a roadside bomb, that hit a convoy. I knew the phone call was coming. It was only a matter of time. I'm referring to the servicemen that were killed in that IED. So I'm thinking we're gonna fly them at night because it got to about 130 degrees in Iraq during the day that time. So they avoid flying them out during the day. I was ready to do the ceremony as usual, strap them in, and send them home. They came. I was hurrying up, get my guys together, let's get the ceremony done, and let's get the plane off the ground. Then I got a call on the radio. The dispatcher asking me to wait. That was never a good thing in the desert. It always turned into something else. It was almost a guarantee. You know, they always told us to hurry up, and we'd wait. I asked myself, what am I waiting for? I was so worried about getting the plane off the ground and out of there. I couldn't take a penalty is all I was thinking at the time. We've got guys that needed to get home. They had to leave, and if it was late, it'd be a problem. So I called back over the radio, and I asked the ramp controller, who was a dispatcher, who was of lesser rank than I was, what are we waiting for? I questioned him. He calmly said someone would come out and explain. Immediately, a master sergeant came out, looked me in my eyes and said, we have some guys that want to pay their respects, so we're going to have to wait. Still thinking in my head, this isn't the mission. It's not what I'm trained to do. This isn't the script. He said, you're asking me to do this, sir. All due respect, who is it going to fall on? I saw the seriousness in the master sergeant's face, and I swallowed any other words that I can think of uttering at that point. Then 2 regular Ford vans pulled up. Out of the vans stepped out guys with bandages wrapped around their heads, IVs still in their arms, approaching me. I looked and I recognized it was the guys that I had joked with weeks earlier. At least a few of them. Then it dawned on me the other ones were in the casket. Their buddies were in the casket. In spite of being mission-driven and determined to complete my task, I was driven to tears. Then I realized it was the last time these men would see their friends, their brothers, fellow servicemen. I pulled it together, and I told everyone in the back of the plane, it's okay if we're late. We were all in tears at this point. That stuck with me. That shifted my thinking. It was that experience that I relate to Memorial Day. Those fallen heroes and their sacrifice will always be the why. The why behind Memorial Day is a holiday. The why we take a moment of silence. The why we decorate the graves. And the why we honor them. It's not just people in faraway places. It's our servicemen and women here in Rockland. Our uncles, brothers, husbands, fathers, and grandfathers. Our service women, our aunts, mothers, sisters, and wives. People just like you and I that have life and have given lives unselfishly. So this Memorial Day, please take a moment to think about the families and the soldiers who have lost their lives, the brothers and sisters while in service to our country. I want to read a few numbers so we have an idea of those that have passed before us. And although I got specific numbers, I still think that they're estimates. In the Civil War, we've lost 620,000. World War I, 116,000. World War II, 405. The Korean War, almost 37,000. Vietnam, 58,000. 7,000 more and counting in Iraq and Afghanistan. But they're not just numbers. They're people. They're people with buddies who salute their caskets as they leave the country. People with families who mourn them. And these are the people that we honor today. So when we have our barbecues, our cookouts, as you watch your children march in the Memorial Day parades, please take a time, a moment, a minute, to think about the soldiers and the families that are not here to celebrate with us now. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Those are just incredibly moving and powerful words. I do want to also thank the Clarkstown Police and the Police Honor Guard under the leadership of our police chief, Chief Wanamaker, along with our command staff, Captain Cummings, who's here. And I want to thank them for their service and all that they do to keep us safe. Thank you, Chief. The ancient Greek historian and philosopher Thucydides once wrote, "The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet, notwithstanding, go out to meet it." This statement so aptly captures the sentiment as we recall our fallen heroes. We're here this morning to honor their lives, to remember their achievements, their courage and dedication, and to say thank you for their service, and yes, for their sacrifice. While we are very honored that so many living veterans are here and present with us this morning, and we say thank you for your service, in a very real sense, we're not here for you today. Rather, we are here for the fallen. We're here for those who sacrificed the promise of another tomorrow. We gather today to honor soldiers, sailors, and airmen who went off to serve, mostly in faraway, unheard of places, and did not have the good fortune to return home. As we do each year, allow me the opportunity to recall 3 of Clarkstown's own who went off to war and did not come home. Corporal William H. Lucas, Corporal William L. Billy Garrison, and Specialist Medic James Jimmy Margrow, who knew all too well the meaning and sacrifice found in the words of Thucydides. Corporal William H. Lucas was born on May 18, 1931 in Congers, the son of Mr. and Mrs. William Lucas Sr. He was raised in Congers, attended local schools, and graduated from Clarkstown High School in 1949. He and his brother Richard were said to be exceptionally good athletes. Both were members of the championship soccer teams of which the high school was proud to boast. In May 1951, William Lucas married his high school sweetheart, Annie Sustak. Both had graduated together in June of 1949. According to the Clarkstown Yearbook, Senior Statistics section, William was famous for, quote, his athletic ability. It was also offered that, quote, he should become a millionaire, and that, quote, he was usually found with Anne. In 1952, he entered military service, joining the Army, where he would serve in combat in Korea during the latter half of the war, and he was promoted to the rank of corporal. William was still serving in the Far East Theater when the Korean armistice was signed, formally ending hostilities on July 27, 1953. On February 1st, 1954, 6 months and a week after the war ended, William Lucas was on board a U.S. Air Force Curtiss C-46D transport plane, which had an in-flight fire in the main cabin while flying over Japan approximately 30 minutes after takeoff from their base. The pilot tried to ditch the aircraft in the Tsargas Strait, but lost control and crashed into the sea, killing all 35 people on board. It was less than 10 minutes from its final destination. Witnesses on the nearby shore said they saw the plane's distress signal deployed and some parachutes open as the aircraft quickly lost altitude. According to an Air Force spokesman, some open parachutes and an oil slick were spotted by search planes. But a blizzard had hit the area just the day before, which hampered the search. 4 Japanese naval boats searched the 25-mile-long water body, joined by many U.S. aircraft. The water was extremely cold. A spokesman for the Army was quoted by the New York Times as saying that a man could stay alive only a few minutes in such frigid water. The crash left 5 crew members dead and 28 soldiers listed as missing in action. Only 2 bodies were recovered. Those are the 2 passengers who were on board. Among the missing was Corporal William H. Lucas of Congers. Since his body was never recovered, there's no grave that holds his earthly remains. Rather, a simple memorial for Corporal Lucas is located at St. Peter's Cemetery in Haverstraw. Corporal William H. Lucas, gone but not forgotten. William Billy Garrison was a proud resident of Congers, a Congers boy through and through. He was born on November 24, 1946, the son of Dorothy and William Garrison. He attended Congers Elementary School, Clarkstown Senior High School. The family lived at 24 Rockland Avenue. As a youngster, he was said to have spent his afternoons and weekends running around the hamlet, fishing and playing pickup baseball games with a group of about 10 of his close friends from his days in Congers Elementary. Billy's father worked as a mechanic at the Lake Road Garage, where Billy and his friends spent a lot of time hanging out and often helping his dad. They may even have occasionally taken a car without permission and driven a few of those cars on the old track behind the garage. After graduation, he worked at Saxton Products on Route 303 in Congers and was later drafted into the U.S. Army to serve in Vietnam as a combat engineer. Billy was a member of Delta Company 15th Combat Engineers of the 9th Infantry Division, serving in the Dinh Thuong Province when he entered Vietnam on March 20th, 1967, having attained the rank of corporal. Billy's role in Vietnam was an incredibly dangerous one, disarming enemy sea mines. Just short of 2 months after arriving in country, Billy's heroic work ended up costing him his life. A mine he was disarming exploded, and he was killed on May 13th, 1967. After his death, Billy's remains were returned home, where a funeral was held at St. John's in the Wilderness, with burial following at St. John's Cemetery. On June 16, 1968, a monument and flagpole was dedicated by the Congers Lions Club in honor of William Billy Garrison at the field behind the Congers VMA. However, over time, it fell into disrepair. It was eventually replaced and rededicated at a grand ceremony with Rockland County's first county executive, John Grant, and town officials on October 22, 1988. According to the Journal News, his parents and his sister Cheryl were in attendance on that overcast Saturday as the new monument consisting of a plaque and a flagpole were rededicated at the corner of the VMA property. For his service, he was awarded a Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, the Vietnam Service Medal, and the New York State Service Medal. Corporal William Billy Garrison, gone but not forgotten. James Anthony Margrow, or Jimmy, as his friends and family called him, was born on February 3, 1949. He grew up in New City and resided on Badger Street, just off of New Hempstead Road, where some members of his family and even childhood friends still reside today. According to news reports, James Margrow was just 20 years old when the chopper he was in was shot down on May 13, 1969, during Operation Apache Snow. According to the Journal News, Jimmy Margrow was at the time of his death the 28th Rockland resident to have died in Vietnam. Unfortunately, he was far from the last. Jimmy was a 1967 graduate of Spring Valley High School. He joined the Army in April of 1968. After basic training, he was sent to Texas for special training as a medic and as a paratrooper. He began his tour of duty in Vietnam on November 24, 1968. He was a member of the illustrious 326th Medical Battalion of the 101st Airborne, whose origins date back to the First World War and continued until the Iraqi War. Operation Apache Snow was a planned military operation involving 10 battalions in the Asaw Valley, which was being used as a staging area for attacks on U.S. forces, as well as a supply route from Laos into the northern part of South Vietnam. The initial assault began on May 10, 1969. Forces included the 187th, 501st, and 506th Infantry Regiments, along with the 101st Airborne and the 9th Marine Regiment. The plan was to block the escape route of the North Vietnamese into Laos and destroy enemy strongholds in the valley. The fighting and the operation were fierce and costly, with North Vietnamese regulars dug in on Hill 937. There were 11 infantry assaults uphill 937 over a 10-day period of intense fighting. In the end, Hill 937 was captured. The soldiers who fought in the battle named the hill Hamburger Hill, which was an up-to-date reference to the bloody Korean War battle of Porkchop Hill. The battle was immortalized by Hollywood in a 1987 film bearing the same title, Hamburger Hill. History records Operation Apache Snow as a strategic victory for the United States, whereby the Vietnamese were forced from Hill 937 and largely driven from the valley for the short term. The fighting formally lasted until June 7, 1969, when the Viet Cong made a strategic retreat with U.S. forces in pursuit. Since Hill 937 was deemed of little long-term lasting military value, it was eventually abandoned by the U.S. only a few weeks after the battle. This caused widespread outrage and a public outcry in the United States, given the cost. What was the cost of that operation? Well, during the battles, 675 North Vietnamese soldiers were killed. Another 3 were captured. 240 heavy weapons of various kinds, including mortars, grenade launchers, machine guns, and other small arms, along with over 100,000 rounds of various munitions, were captured. Taking these items out of enemy hands undoubtedly saved American and South Vietnamese soldiers' lives. However, 102 U.S. soldiers and Marines paid the ultimate price and were killed along with 31 South Vietnamese soldiers. Among the fallen was Specialist James Jimmy Margrow, who lived on Badger Street in New City, which the town renamed in his memory on the 50th anniversary of his death 2 years ago. According to reports, Specialist Jimmy Margrow was killed on the 4th day of the fighting, May 13th, when the chopper he was in was brought down as he was seeking to render assistance to wounded American soldiers. His body was recovered 4 days later. Among the many awards he received were the Bronze Star with V for Valor and Oak Leaf Cluster, the Purple Heart, the Parachutist Badge, the Combat Medic Badge, the National Defense Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, American Presidential Citation, a Unit Citation, Vietnam Gallantry Cross, and the Army Good Conduct Medal, and several others as well. Medic and Specialist James Jimmy Margrow, gone but not forgotten. History records that 1,354,664 men and women have died in service to our nation in all of its wars and conflicts. We can never, ever allow these brave men and women to be forgotten or simply remain a statistic. What they did, the price they paid, deserves so much more. We must recall that there were people who, like William H. Lucas, William Billy Garrison, and James Jimmy Margrow, had lives filled with youth, promise, and hope. They had families who worried about them and saw them off and likely prayed for them every day for their safe return. And when they did not come home, their families, friends, and communities were shattered by grief and unspeakable loss. We must continue to share their stories, to remember their names and what they sacrificed for the rest of us. Because few men and women will choose to put their lives on the line to serve and defend the Constitution. Fewer still go towards danger. Few willingly face the horrors and atrocities of war that most of us cannot actually ever even fathom. Fewer volunteer to serve, knowing, as Thucydides offered, that death may be the outcome. But we can ensure that those who made that choice and paid the ultimate price can rest in peace, knowing that they served with the thanks of a grateful citizenry and nation, knowing that they will never be forgotten because we will never forget. May God bless William H. Lucas, William Billy Garrison, and James Jimmy Margrow. May they and all who paid the ultimate price rest in eternal peace. God bless you all today and throughout this solemn weekend of remembrance, and may God continue to bless and protect the United States of America. Thank you.
Could I ask you all to please rise as able? This morning we've come together to remember those who have given their lives in order to preserve liberty and freedom for us and for the world. May our great nation continue to be a source of blessing, a beacon of freedom to all people. Empower us, dear God, to seek what is right, to love our neighbor, and to pray for peace. We look forward to spending time with our families this Memorial Day weekend, as referenced so effectively by our guest speaker, barbecuing, picnicking, enjoying the cool breezes upstate. Let us not squander the hard-won blessings that have been handed down to us from those who gave their lives in service to our nation. Help us to understand and help us to appreciate the true dimensions of their sacrifice. And let us recommit ourselves this day and all days to preserving their memory through deeds of kindness and charity. As our memorial draws to a close, we ask, dear God, that you bless all those who have gathered here today, community leaders, neighbors, friends. We honor all those in active duty today, those who are near and those who are far away, as well as veterans and their families, as we gratefully acknowledge their service to our nation. And we honor all the mothers and the fathers and the spouses and the siblings and the children who have lost a loved one in service to our country. We invoke for them the blessing of the biblical Aaron, the priest. Yivarechacha Hashem v'yishmarecha. May the Lord bless you and protect you. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka. May the Lord deal kindly and graciously with you. Yisah Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bestow favor upon you and grant you and all of us peace. Amen.
America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
So this will conclude our ceremony. I'd just like to thank a few folks for their efforts in helping us with today. I want to thank Marlene and Nettie, our senior citizen volunteers who worked so hard on decorating inside, along with the whole Senior Citizen Memorial Day Committee. Many of them are here. The town's providing refreshments, and they're cooking and serving inside. So let's thank them, give them a round of applause if we can. I also want to thank the Clarkstown Police Department again, Chief Wanamaker, Captain Cummings, the entire command staff, and all of the members of the Police Honor Guard. They'll be busy throughout the entire weekend at different parades and ceremonies, and the Police Honor Guard's entirely volunteer. They go for special training on that, and they're just exceptional. In fact, a week and a half ago, they actually led the national ceremony for Police Week, our Police Honor Guard, and they're always the premier unit that's asked to do it out of all the policing units across the country. So let's thank the Clarkstown Police Honor Guard. All of our veterans, we're not only grateful for your service, but especially the veterans who placed the wreaths and the Marine Corps League members who served as our firing detail. Let's thank them as well. Our DFM staff, Chris and Ronnie and John Macrino and all of the staff here at Street School, along with Chip and Eric and the staff from my office, Erica Machete, Al Maroney, Jeff Gillies, Anne-Marie, Michelle, and Susan. Thank you all for everything that you did to help with this ceremony. And again, all of our elected officials and dignitaries who joined us. So during the course of this weekend, there are a lot of parades that are starting to come back, a lot of different events. Keep in mind, tomorrow morning will be at 10:30 will be the Congress Memorial Day Parade. The VMA will have a ceremony recognizing all the fallen from Congress. Afterwards in front of the VMA. On Sunday, I encourage everybody to go to the Frederick Lozier Cemetery at 12 o'clock on Brick Church Road in Spring Valley to attend a very simple but powerful ceremony of remembrance with full military honors in honor of all of our fallen vets at that Veterans Cemetery. Immediately thereafter, the Korean War vets will have a ceremony up at the Gary Onderdunk Cemetery on the grounds of RCC. And then Sunday evening, we'll have the watch fires at the 4 locations across Rockland County, at Clausland Mountain, at Eugene Levy Memorial Park, at Piermont Pier, and Bowline Park, and that'll go for 24 hours. And if you've never been to the watch fire, I encourage you to please do so, and thank our veterans who are there that are attending watch in memory of the fallen. And then in Clarkstown on Monday morning, we have 3 ceremonies. 10 a.m. At Mount Moore Historic Cemetery at the Palisades Center, 11 o'clock at the American Legion across from Town Hall, and 12 o'clock run by the Jewish war veterans at the Veterans Monument in Nanuet. So please take some time this weekend to pause and pray for the fallen, to thank a veteran if you see them, and to try and attend any or as many of these events here in the town and around the county that you can. Please join us inside for refreshments. Thank you, everybody.